Let me try that again. Calling the meeting to order. Good afternoon. Okay, we do not have remote participation. Okay, so we'll just. Is there anybody?
You want to do the usually the disposition of the minutes?
Yeah, we're okay. Yes, we shall do the disposition of the minutes. Yeah, you've got a copy of it, and they were sent earlier. Is there any changes?
I move to accept the minutes as presented.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And nays have their choice. And no nays? Okay. There you go. Sold. Okay. Announcements. We have any announcements?
I have a gratuitous announcement that artwork by Judy Townsend is now on display in the quiet room of North Side next month.
Okay. Next month.
This month.
This month.
This month. And next month.
Okay. Okay. Good. Other comments?
I don't believe we have any public comment in the room, Alita. If anyone online would like to make public comment, please use the Zoom raise hand function now. It doesn't look like you have any public comment.
Okay. Well, we're moving right along here. Then we have the trustee continuing education, Meredith.
And I'll just, as I can't not talk, as a reminder, the board passed the collection, the material selection policy earlier this year. And so Meredith has updated the staff procedural document related to that. She's waiting for that board level policy to be done before this. And what we're going to do with this is the board's going to review it today. And then even though this is a procedural document that's normally not public facing, we're going to link it from the policy manual page of the website, just because this is of interest and people do occasionally ask to see it. It'll be publicly available. So take it away.
So it was in your packet today, so you can read the entire document at your leisure. I'll just give a little brief intro to what's in it today and what has been updated recently, and then I'll take questions. But my first paragraph is there already. The revision of the material selection policy earlier this year offered us the opportunity to take a look at this management plan, make sure that it's up to date and aligned with that policy. And that policy really guides all of our collection management work at JMRL. So we want to make sure it's in lockstep with that. But this plan, as David said, is the staff basic procedural document. It's designed to be used by staff in their professional work, describes the factors that inform our decisions of what to maintain in the collection, establishes protocol, and highlights and interprets all the relevant policies. So I went through, and procedures, went through both manuals, policy manual, procedure manual, everything that touches collection management should be mentioned in this plan and linked back to it. So staff have one place to go to see all of the documentation. And it follows the life cycle of collection of materials. So if you've heard me talk about collection management at any time before, and all of the staff who've taken my trainings know that I generally start with a slide that's the life cycle of the library collection. And we stress this idea of the life cycle because our collection should constantly be refreshed and updated and made adaptable to reflect the changing needs of the community. And the life cycle starts with selection. What are we going to put into the collection? Which titles? How many copies? What areas, what topics, subject matters need more or less attention at any time. Once we decide what we're going to buy, acquisitions would be where we're going to get it, which vendors are giving us good deals and good service, and have stock. These days, that's an issue. And then the books arrive at Central and are centrally processed and cataloged by the technical services staff. I work a lot, or my staff, my team works alongside the technical services team, catalogers and processors. They attach all the data in the catalog and make sure the books are labeled for easy accessibility in the shelves. Books go out to branches. And then I step back in with guidance and advice and insight into how best the branches can organize their shelves, their spaces, what might need more or less space based on how the reading public is using the collection. It's up to the branch staff to manage their collection once the books are in there, but I'm always there for, my office offers this data to help with the. And then at the end of the life cycle of each individual item in the collection, we have deselection, meeting, withdrawal. We have a bunch of names for deciding when an item, a book or a DVD's life with the library collection is over. It could be through condition, or it could be through usefulness of the outdated information. And then as we remove items from the collection, we're making room for fresh new materials. Again, either replacements in good condition or updated material. So that's back up at the top of selecting all those new fresh materials. And this entire process is a team effort. So hopefully we've said all these things in this document is that all levels of staff are involved in some way, and input from the public is taken at every step. And for every new format or technology or informational material we adopt, we need to make sure it fits within the mission of the library, and that we implement it responsibly and efficiently to make it the most accessible it can be. So this plan lays out who's responsible for these decisions at which step. Centralized acquisition, because we do all the books, the central libraries get cataloged and processed, and the selection decisions are made by the regional managers. Right? Ultimately decide which adult books to purchase. When you're working as branch staff, it's like Christmas when the couriers come every day and they've got these new books, and it's just, oh, what's going to arrive today, with a little slip that says this is new to my branch, and where did the decision come to put this book at this branch? They will have had input, but also sometimes I just use my knowledge and information to say, oh, I think I'm going to place this book at this branch. So the staff can see where those decisions may well have come from. Why is the book at their shelf, at their branch? Links to all the relevant policies. One of the updates we did is because we can put this document on the Google Drive that staff have access to, we can link to all of the policies and the documents. They can go straight there and keep those up to date. This newly updated plan, I was looking back at what it was when we wrote it originally in 2017, and it documents the proliferation of types of things that we circulate. The library of things, museum passes, the growth of the digital library in terms of electronic resources. It was a marked difference, those fun new things. And also the Local Voices collection has been added since 2017, so we were able to add a description into that, which is at 6 branches and highlights local authors and creators. We updated the scope statement for the African American collection at Gordon Avenue. Camille Thompson has been doing great work really diving into what's there and refreshing that collection. And the plan also highlights any collaborations we have with local historical societies or other groups to place materials in the library collection and help them maintain access to those materials. And it also places emphasis on the fact that most of the decisions I've been talking about are data-driven. We do keep a rigorous schedule of circulation statistics of how the collection is being used, watching trends over time to react to those trends and make sure that we're putting the things on the shelf that our readers want. And analysis of turnover rates, where are we, or also in the next year, where are we going to need to spend more or allocate more shelf space because there is a greater demand in a certain area. And let's see, so I mentioned that we were linking to the policies and the procedures that related. We also linked to instructional documents. And the procedures, like what do I do when we've received a request for reconsideration? What is the paperwork involved in the buy a book donation? How do I request materials? How do I help my patrons request materials? be added to the collection. And it does reference instructional documents. How do I do an inventory of my collection? Those are all the things that the staff might access through this plan. And it mentions the resources we use in collection management work, the core collection, and are some seminal reference tests that list books that should be in a library collection, and sources we use for the critical book reviews to evaluate whether to purchase a title or not. This plan is meant to be a living document, flexible and reactive, just like our collection is. And so we aim to revise it regularly, keeping it fresh, keeping it accurate to describe how we do things. Because it's our chance to be transparent about all of the collection management work we do. And hopefully it'll be shown to every new staff member to introduce them to how we do this as JMRL and where they fit into it. I'm sure that you all took all the time before this meeting. But it's also, there at your leisure, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah. You may have already addressed this, but I know you said this is for staff. So is it hidden from public view then, or is it?
It is going to be linked in the policy manual. So in the material selection policy, it references this plan, and I believe it is going to be a public link.
Previously, it's been a staff-only procedural document. After this revision, it's going to go in the same place where the public goes to find what the policies of the library are.
That's true. In 2017, when it was originally this iteration of the plan, I did present it to the board, and so it was public there, and we never, if anybody asked about it, we always referenced it, but now it's just going to be like.
I don't have a point of view on that. I was
Yeah.
just wanting to know.
It's always been available to the public.
Yep.
Any work product of JMRL is subject to a request from the public to see it, and we do give it out sometimes in the reconsideration process. People are interested in the things that are in here, so it's been something that JMRL has circulated. We're just going to kind of cut out that middleman.
When you're purging some of these material, do they sometimes find their way to other branches?
Yes, yeah, and that's addressed in here. That's because we do like to see if there are either extra copies that we ordered for when a book was in demand, and a branch no longer needs duplicate copies, but another branch's copy has been lost along the wayside. We can transfer that to another branch instead of just getting rid of it. In addition, we look for, this author is no longer popular in this county, but the people next door still read this author, so we'll make sure these copies go to the branch. The branches are encouraged to look for those transfer opportunities before we completely cut ties. Yeah.
We'll round out a series.
Right. We're constantly looking at, oh yeah, you're missing volume 3, and I have volume 3, but not 1 and 2. So let's put 3 where to live with it. And yeah.
I have 2 questions.
Sure.
So you mentioned that each branch, after selection and acquisition, each branch manages its own collection.
Mhm.
And then also on page 9, it says each branch is responsible for overseeing the maintenance of its home collection under the guidance of regional selectors.
Mhm.
Can you just outline what are the types of things that the branch is doing then under this concept of branch maintenance or branch management?
Sure. It can be as simple as this book is no longer a bestseller, so we're going to put it in the regular collection, so changing a location within the branch. Some branches apply different stickers because their readers, especially in the children's room, they like to browse certain things, so they'll put level stickers, or they'll put series stickers on. Other branches find that that's not, so we leave that decision to the branch. Organization, every branch has different physical space, so they know best how it's going to fit and flow.
So what I'm hearing is more they've got, and I think there's also a caveat that there's some branch funds and some branch direct acquisition is my understanding, or tell me if I'm wrong about that.
There are discretionary funds
Yeah.
that they can, yeah.
So aside from that, what you've just described is now we've selected and acquired and assigned the books, now the branch, that's what their working set is, and they do stuff with, and probably there's some inventory involved in that too, notifying you back,
Yes,
we've lost this copy and now
exactly.
kick that back up to collections.
Yes, exactly. Like we're missing volume 3 in this series, and then I have the opportunity to say, does anyone else have an extra volume 3? Or I'll just buy a new one.
Okay, so my takeaway is the branch management means branch doing stuff with the books that are in their collection that have been assigned to that branch. Okay, great. Okay, second question. I asked about this in a previous presentation where you talk about the kind of the data-driven approach to management, but I want to just ask you maybe revisit or refresh my memory, or maybe it's something you've thought about more recently, as part of putting this plan together. But how do we balance because you've talked a lot about we're driven by demand, and I would call that a depth-based. I'm going to ask how do we balance breadth and depth. So let me define what I mean by that. So by depth, I mean there's a lot of demand for this new book, so we need to meet that demand. We got to buy copies of that.
Right.
But there's also a concept of we want to have or topics or types of book that just might not have a deep interest or broad or a lot of interest in time, but we do want it to be available on, to be findable and accessible for somebody who has sort of a non-standard type of interest or demand. So but there's only so many bookshelves.
Right.
So how do you think about balancing that? And B, can you point to anything in the collection plan, the management plan, where you've sort of talked about?
I would have to look back to see exactly where it's addressed, but we do talk about breadth and depth, meeting demand with extra copies of books as much as, and I believe I talk specifically when we look at demand, we talk about the ratios, hold ratios. So one specific example would be if we get more than 5 holds per active copy of a certain title, that triggers a report to say, oh, maybe you should consider more copies of it.
Right.
We will only do that to a certain extent. I'm not going to put 500 copies of something when I could, we might limit it. So the hold list goes a little bit longer for a period of time, but we know that we're sacrificing that rigid adherence to the 5-to-1 ratio to say, I'm going to spend that money on something that's going to suit the readers who aren't on hold for that want something different. And it does have that caveat in there as much as the budget allows for breadth and depth.
So let me rephrase how I heard that and see what you think. So, and I think you mostly spoke to depth is that, yes, the hold ratio allows us to identify where there's a deep demand for something, but we're going to cap that at some point to allow so that we don't optimize completely on that measure. And so to allow space for other acquisitions in sort of a broad-based topic. Okay.
Right.
So it's not, okay. So that gives you the room to then, okay, I think I understand.
Yeah,
Right.
It's not just going to be the bestsellers.
Yeah.
We're going to also find the mid-range books to satisfy the folks who might not have the voice to place the hold.
Yeah.
But they're going to find it.
Yeah, but then, is there, that's one last follow-up. In depth base, you talked about turnover ratio, hold ratios and turnover times as one kind of metric. Do you have a different way of understanding this, how we're doing on a breadth type of metric if we're trying to balance the two?
I'm not sure about I think that's where a little bit, if I'm not thinking about the fiction collection, but a little bit where the professional art comes in as well, of making sure that we know of the range and the
Try not to say breadth. You're trying not to say breadth.
What was I really trying not to say? I don't know what word I was.
Yeah.
Of the range of books available that were
Yeah.
published this week, I want to make sure that I know I have to buy 10 copies of the Grisham, but there's this other book that I'm looking at, and I say, oh yeah, that's gonna. And sometimes it's just throwing spaghetti at the wall, if that's an appropriate analogy, to say the selectors are looking for a few of those books that might be more niche. We're gonna give them a chance.
Yeah.
Say, let's put them out there and see how people.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
So I had a question.
Yeah.
You've spoken a lot about the books. Like the library is like this and moments other thing too. you know, all these other special things, a safe library and all these others. I don't know what to call them, library of things and everything else.
Right.
How do you go about creating acquisition, you know, figuring out, is there a process that you have to expand those things?
Mhm. And that's one good, and you'll see in there that it talks about the library of things, specifically the maker kits and the wonderful instructional kits are put together by the reference staff, and it's a team effort. I think that we utilize the experience of all of our professional staff to say, oh, here's a thing that either someone was talking about, we found a great new book on that we can supplement with a kit, or we were using a ukulele in story time and we think other people want to use ukulele in their lives. And it comes into, we identify, or we see something, another library did something really cool. And we steal that idea and we say, we can do this. We think it's going to fit a need. And then it's a,
So it's really capitalizing on the incredible creativity and inventiveness of this.
right.
Sometimes it's also other organizations seeking to partner. If an organization, you know, the JMRL circulates passes to the Discovery Museum on the downtown mall in Charlottesville, and that I think it was initiated by the Discovery Museum. This was many years ago, but they reached out to say like, oh, hey, we have this idea here, and it's been a very popular part of our collection for a decade.
Yeah. And I like the state park backpacks because they give me the pass to the state park with a back, and that came from the state library provides those.
So you mentioned that at least partly data-driven collection development, and I was curious if you've ever looked at or sort of just played with or explored looking at the catalog search logs of, you know, where there were 0 results.
Mhm.
Another one would be like looking at interlibrary loan requests and whether or not those would be, you know, especially if you're seeing multiple ILO requests or something. And then I'm curious if you've looked at those two possible sources, and then just whether there are potential sources on the horizon, things that you're thinking might be, you know, valuable or available in the future.
Yeah, 3 things. Yes, we do get the reports on 0 hit catalog searches, and so we can scan to say, oh, is this a keyword that? So it could be that we have the materials, we're just not cataloging them right. So we want to make sure that those access points, the keywords, are going to be in the record, or that's a gap in the collection. If people are absolutely looking for them, we can use that to guide things. The ILL staff, the interlibrary loan staff, are instructed to let us know, the selectors, if there are multiple requests for something, or you know, more than one person looking for a topic or a type of material that we don't have, then we can start looking at filling that gap. So yes, you've nailed those 2 on the head. And then third thing you mentioned was
Potential future sources
Yes.
of new data that might be helpful.
well, one of the first thing that comes to mind is streaming music. CDs we still do have music CDs in the collection, but they are not circulating as well, and it's harder to get them. They're just not being produced in the same way. And so one of the things that we're pursuing is possible adding to our streaming services.
I was actually more about new sources of data that would give you insights of like, oh, we should add this to the collection.
The other thing that thinks is what we also track is the patron suggestions for purchase. So somebody asks us to buy a specific book, but we're also looking at the overall. Is there a trend in the kind of books they're asking for that we're not proactively purchasing? And so we'll take a look at that and say, I'll have those in mind. If I come across a new release that matches that trend, it might not be something someone specifically asked for, but it matches that trend in requests that we can fill. Give the breadth there.
I'm not sure if we still do this, Peter, but we also used to use some Google Analytics on our site that would then tell us what the searches were that brought people to our site. So that's, I'm not sure that that actually shows what you're saying, because it wouldn't show the things that didn't bring them to us, but it would, you know, like you could see how many people searched for Peter Moorville Scottsville Library. That brings some data about what people are looking for.
Yeah. It sounds like there's already a very rich set of signals from, you know, data to humans kind of, you know, kind of the sort of folks making suggestions and librarians taking a look. So I was just curious if there was anything on the horizon, totally new sources of data about what people are looking for.
Sure there will be. I'm sure it starts with 2 letters that were all pointed out, right? There are, I think, tools that are available now that weren't available a few years ago that are making their way into every facet of professional life, and libraries are not are part of that. So I'm sure there are people right now working on AI tools to help libraries make decisions or predict trends, things like that.
Just a kind of a technical question, just because it came up recently, but in your children's collection, there are so many series now, right? I mean, it boggles my mind. And one little kid could go, they don't have, number 4 in the series of 27. So is there a software that helps each branch know in all those series if there's something missing in their collection? How do you keep all of those straight?
There's the stuff.
We do run reports of the items that have been lost or missing so that we can say, oh, that identify that those are the series we should make sure.
How do they even
fill those
know if
gaps.
there's something?
A regular inventory. So I hopefully so our software does have a component. Our Sierra, the catalog software, does have a component where we can scan everything on the shelf and it compares what is on the shelf with what should be on the shelf according to the
So
database.
they go
and make
physically.
those. Yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
and then compare that with what's.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. So then we can find the missing things and also find the things that, any anomalies.
Right.
Or it's the patrons looking for it and either places to hold that we can't find, or asking a librarian, like,
Yeah.
where's book 4?
Yes,
And
yeah.
then identify that, oh no, that's missing.
Frequently the human aspect of it as well.
They find those 75 copies of Scarlet we ordered back in the early 2000s.
Thank you.
Well, if you dive into it and have any other questions, you know where to reach.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Meredith.
Okay, moving right along, we have some committee reports. Technology. committee.
Yeah, so we met last time. We had 2 items on the agenda, the Monticello Avenue planning and then the website enhancement timeline planning. And I think on the Monticello Ave, if my sort of takeaway was that this was specifically focused on kind of looking at the virtual village and the folks who have the libraries hosting their websites, and that so far you have learned that every partner is in a different situation.
I mean, that's pretty fun fact.
And that
How many patrons are there?
There's about 25 to 30 different orgs that are in some level of,
That are present now, that have an account now?
they have an account now.
and so you were going to kind of just keep working to
We're reaching out into the
flush out
field.
plans for folks. And then the second topic, the language that I use for this is kind of the roadmap for the website, and talked about that quite a bit. And the notion that rather than just thinking about some monolithic website redesign, that it makes more sense to think about the website in terms of parts or the elements of the website. There are various applications and some of which, so like if you think about the catalog and if you think about the calendar, those are different applications, and we have, agreements with certain timelines of like when does that need to be renewed or renegotiated. And so, and then you can also think about it in terms of lenses. So, right, one view is kind of the parts or elements of the website. Another is lenses that you could look at. You could do a content audit, like, right, is this from an editorial perspective, is this kind of, something any changes we want to make? You could do an information architecture audit. Is this organized the way we want? You could do a branding audit. Do we want to update our brand? And so the plan is for our the meeting that we'll have in the next quarter, that David's going to bring kind of a first draft roadmap that kind of addresses sort of idea of parts. So that we can start to get, all in one place, kind of on a piece of paper or a digital view, but like start to see what is the timeline for iteratively improving the web presence over time.
Okay, thank you. Fines and fees working group report.
So we met and reviewed the initial metrics from auto renewals. And we felt that we had done everything that we need to do at this point and are recommending that the library board proceed with discussion and vote on removal of late fines starting July 1st, 2026 to be added to a future agenda. And David's got some metrics that he's going to share with us today.
Thank you for reminding me. So the working group spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out what data can we collect now that would help the board evaluate a change in the fines and fee structure moving forward, and settled on 5 different areas here that we have begun tracking and are going to continue to track through the new automatic renewals landscape that we're in. First is just how often things are returned either before the due date or after the due date of items. And right now, I think it was around 80% are returned on time or earlier. Don't quote me on the exact numbers.
That was like 85%.
85.
We added it all up.
Somewhere around there. So that's good. We're starting from a good baseline there. To me, it seems good. For that 15% waiting for the book, probably not so good. Hold wait times is another one. Like, what is the overall average or median wait time for somebody who has placed a hold on an item that's not available to them? So we can look back after the fact and see if that number has moved dramatically. The collection turnover rate, which is something that Meredith collects, and it's just a circulation divided by holdings. We generally do that on an annual basis. But we can look at that on a monthly basis as well. So it's a number that we can track. Are things moving faster or slower throughout the collection? Differential in blocked cards. So how many cards are currently in a status in which they're not allowed to access the library, largely because of fines or fees. And then differential on new cards. How many new cards are added after a change is made? So we're kind of tracking this information now. The working group is I think, done with the data collection and discussion, and prepared for the board. Put this on an agenda for a large discussion in August, and then a vote either in August or September, depending on the board's pleasure. Mike, anything to add?
Yeah, I would add 2 things. I had asked David separately, and I think you said you have this for the discussion, to just a 1-page executive summary. What, again, are the goals, or what would the library hope to achieve by making this change? Benefits or the expected hope for benefits. And then also, what risks have we identified through the working group, and what are the steps that we've taken to try and mitigate some of those? So just putting in one place an executive summary of the knowns and unknowns and things you want to know as a decision maker. Say, yes, let's try this.
Those being the the funds that we would be not bringing in.
That's certainly
the
one of the
budget
potential
issues.
issues
How we're gonna make up this one.
that would need to be discussed.
So to that point, my other thought is, and I'll just throw this into people, the back of your mind, to think about for the discussion, a potential discussion next month. If we're at some point we'll vote, and if vote is positive, then staff and under David's direction is going to charge ahead and try and make it happen. And he can talk at some point about why it was based on kind of David's comfort level and recommendation that we identified July 1st, 2026 as a target implementation time. But think to yourself, do you want to see the implementation plan before you vote, yes, let's enact this plan? And one of the portions, a major component of that would be the kind of the financial and budgetary implications, and how are we going to address those? And I know David's already been thinking about this for like 2 years now at this point. So it's not a. So do you want to see that sort of plan and roadmap, how we're going to get from here to July 1st, 2026 before voting, or are you comfortable with the track record that we've seen and what we know that David's already been thinking about, that we would say, okay, go do it, and then we that's going to happen? But I want to see those a product like that before voting. Yeah, I'll put that into your minds for discussion next month.
So David, my hope would be that if we're gonna have a discussion on this next month, that you could set that up with kind of a review. I know that, you know, we talked about this quite a bit several months back before we spun off this working group. So like probably we will all, the folks who weren't on that group will need a refresher before we talk about some of the issues.
Sure. Siri, anything else to add? Working group. Let the record show.
Yeah, well,
Sometimes I'm-
I think this would be I think the working group is now closed. That's the president's discretion, so you can make us keep reporting the duty there, but.
You know, it sounds like if we're going to be thinking about this or the next year this time, and reviewing everything. So I don't know other.
Yeah, the only other thing I would ask is if we think we might actually, and we can discuss this right now, if we think we might actually vote on something in August, then I would ask that the agenda say discussion and potential vote, so that all interested parties just have the opportunity to understand that that's something that might happen next.
I'm just a little confused about your second question. I think if we're gonna vote on this, we needed, I mean, obviously, you're gonna give us as much information to make that, the pros and the cons to make that decision. I don't need to know the details of implementing the plan, but I would like to know
Yeah,
what the budget implications are and whatever other implications there are. I'm not quite sure what they would be, but.
Well, I think and I think part of that suggestion might probably stems from making sure that members of the public have an opportunity to weigh in and let board members know what their feelings are about this as well. So, you know, I think it would be fine if the board wanted you to say, hey, we're gonna have a discussion in August and then put it to a vote in September, in case there are things that come up in August that aren't the answer to your satisfaction.
So when would the public weigh in on that?
They could weigh in August or September. For the board meeting, I mean, it'd be part of the agenda, part of the handouts.
But for next month, would you be able to? I don't feel like I need to see a detailed implementation plan before voting. But kind of to Ann's point, like it would be helpful to get a sense from you of just ballpark, how would you make it work?
Yeah.
budget-wise?
Yeah, I think so. Taking Mike's framework of saying, here's the barge, here's what JMRL is looking to accomplish, and here are what the potential problems are. One of those would be loss of revenue, and I can include the plan area and I work on. We've, to your point, we've been thinking about this for a long time. We can include, here's how we would address that.
And I think it makes sense to probably just have a discussion next month and the vote in September. Because I think this is a big important decision, and we should allow for time for either a little bit more fact finding or just reflection.
In the public, right?
Okay.
To the extent the public even knows.
That sounds like a plan. Of course, you won't be here in September, you just don't.
No, so I get to run the
Maybe you'll be up there.
Anything else on that?
Thanks to the members of the working group for your time this year.
Oh, business.
Okay, last month we presented the policy committee's recommended disposition of policy 2.44, employment preferences. And this is part of our regular 10-year review that this came up for review. And the committee, including some checking with legal counsel, recommends that we remove this from the public-facing policy manual because it doesn't really, it just deals with internal management of employees and so forth. This will, at the same time, be transitioned in some written fashion. Some version of this will be in writing in the employee handbook, but it's moving from policy level as sort of board managed document into a staff only or an operational mode, which is our procedures. So that was the recommendation. So the reading is strike it all out, put it somewhere else.
Do we have
So, yeah, today would be a discussion and a vote to if you want to follow that recommendation.
Anybody?
So I move that we remove policy 2.44, employment references, JMRL policy meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Alright.
I want to do this.
There's nothing that says you can't do it.
Okay, so it's gone. It's not gone. It's been transferred. It's been moved. Committee, now we're into new business. That was really quick. New business, committee assignments, and
Would you like me to go through them?
yes, please.
So with the change in leadership, we have no new board members coming on this the beginning of this fiscal year, which is very nice, good continuity. New leadership with Alita and Brandy taking over. So the board president is not supposed to be a standing member of any committee. So we had to do a little bit of shuffling. Alita took a look at this, sounds okay. Tony has agreed to resume his old job as the chair of the Budget Finance Committee. The one exception here is that Alita will remain on that committee because there's a representative from each municipality and she's the only representative from Nelson County. Breaking our own rule already. No other change there for the Budget Finance Committee except for Peter stepping off because he's gotten new jobs. Technology Committee is remaining as is. The Strategic Planning Committee, Alita is stepping off of that. Tony is stepping on. This is an off year for that, so it's just review, basically, tweaking as needed. There's no plan development happening. Policy Committee remains the same. Personnel Committee remains mostly the same. Alita coming off, Peter going on, but Brandy has agreed to remain as the chair. We're also, as we mentioned last month, Ophelia Payne is joining as a staff representative. So that I don't believe that actually needs a vote because it is one of the few presidential powers. So if you don't like the assignment, take it up.
Is Pearl still on Friends?
He's still on the Friends board, so he's still technically the liaison. He's just not the president.
Yeah. You could just send me a text. Yeah. Okay.
Staff will update the webpage to make those changes later this week, basically, so. Okay,
Right. Now, the friends, family, and fun, right?
okay, so there's some information here included from the annual meeting of the advisory committee of the Friends of the Library Family of Endowment Funds at the Charlottesville Area Community Foundation. And as a reminder, that committee is made up of the president and vice president of the library board and the Friends of the Library Board and myself. The ex officio member is the treasurer of the Friends of the Library, and this year JMRL's business manager attended to help provide support there. So the funds are held by the Charlottesville Area Community Foundation, governed by the advisory committee. In your handout is the recommendation from that group. So here's kind of the funds themselves. Got these 4 overall regional funds, and then a fund for each branch library. As a reminder here, there was only the Greene County Fund. That was the only branch-only fund about 7 or 8 years ago, and it was it had funds that were left over from the fundraising project to move into the current library there. One of the things that when I started, we were starting to think about the Nelson fundraising project and had been through the Crozet fundraising project where the Friends collected all the money. It seemed that this was a better vehicle for collecting money for capital improvement projects. So the CACF allowed JMRL and the Friends to create a fund for each branch, which are intended to be for capital improvements for those branches. So now we have all of these funds here, and they have various levels of support. We have not been actively fundraising too much for the branch level funds, except for the Nelson Fund for the Grow Nelson Library Group, and we will be looking at the central fund in the next few years as part of the renovation of the central library there. So all told, where's the bottom line? Very healthy figures for the fund, $3.7 million held by the CACF there. The total advisory committee recommended grants for this year are in 3 areas: programs and events, scholarships and internships, and library improvements. So the requests that will go through to the CACF will be for funding for those broad categories. The advisory committee discussed the potential projects that JMRL is already looking at. If you will recall also, based on the board suggestion 2 years ago, the library staff began accepting kind of applications for funding here on our normal budget cycle from branches. So if there was a special need or project, a branch could ask for it in the spring and have it be reviewed by the advisory committee for the following fiscal year. Bottom line is a request for a grant of $112,672. So as a reminder, the board policy requires that the library board accept any grants. So that's your role today, which is what's before you. So the CACF will not make a grant until the board accepts that they would accept a grant. Okay, so I have a motion there prepared for you, but I'm also ready to answer any questions about
So I'm inclined to accept the grant, but I have a question about this allocation decisions this year. In the past, I think you've told us that there's from endowment management principles, there's sort of a broad target of 4.5% of total to be allocated each year. And did you all discuss that target, or if I'm doing the math, but I may not have put the right numbers in the right places, I'm coming up with, we're allocating 3%. So only 2/3 of sort of the targeted amount. And I'm curious, am I right, first of all? But if I'm right, what might be some of the reasons for allocating less than the sort of conceptual target?
In discussions with the Charlottesville Area Community Fund, they do use a 4.5% figure, but their main concern there is to protect the principal that's in each fund. So and their advice is more, don't spend over 4.5%, so that we're protecting the funds and they're growing over time. So I think there will be a time in which we will spend over 4.5%, specifically in some of those capital improvement fundraising projects. And the advisory committee will have to make a proposal to the CHCF that's a bit more in-depth than what we're doing now. So I don't have a problem underspending and allowing these funds to continue to grow because we expect that the ultimate goal for them is to support capital projects.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would say growth to me is not in itself a goal. It's the only purpose of growing is that you can use it for something. But
Yeah.
but I understand your takeaway from what you said is there's going to be some time where we have to go way over the 4.5 because really we have this available for burst mode or a spike when we have capital. Okay, thank you for that. Excellent.
Rejected, that could have been.
From library staff, I don't believe so. I think everything is requested. I think, saying that off the top of my head, I'm reasonably sure that everything that was requested made it.
I think that's that list, the list, and nothing, yeah. All of those are included.
Are there any other questions? It's been a while since I did here's what this CXCF funding is, so I'm happy to bring that back or to bring somebody from the organization to come talk about, how they're investing the money, things like that, what their recommendations are. I'm happy to do that moving forward. This is generally the annual cycle. So, and this I should say, if the board has interest in spending these funds, they of course do not belong to the board. They're the family of funds there, but the board has quite a bit of say in how they're spent and has to accept them. The time frame for that would be to make a proposal that gets in front of the advisory committee. So it'd be in the spring, basically. We would say like, okay, well, we've got this project that the board has been thinking about. We want to take it in front of the advisory committee. And I don't have the calendar, but it's on your board budget calendar for the year when the library is seeking it from staff. So of course the board has a little bit more flexibility, but in the spring for the following year.
I would just say to that is more articulate my general perspective is that I view these funds as being purpose of the fund is to benefit the library, and I want them to be used to benefit the library and not used to accumulate themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree that we're saying it's going to be used in a spike mode to benefit the library because we've got a big renovation that we're looking at. I'm all in favor of that, and that's a 2 thumbs up. But I would be relying, based on that general philosophy or perspective, I would be relying on the CIF's statement or my understanding, and maybe you've sort of refined that a little bit today, that we're going to generally spend 4.5%.
I think we're going to spend up to 4.5.
Yeah, well, that's what
that's the
caveat.
We don't have to go 65.
Yeah, that's the caveat that I've heard. So my perspective is I want to, again, consistent with prudent management of endowments. I want these funds to benefit the library as much as possible. And accumulating by itself doesn't benefit the library, except in the case of, well, we have a specific big ticket item that we're looking at. So again, I accept that.
All the items that the staff requested, are included in what.
Sure.
What this amount is.
But
So
yeah.
so if it doesn't total, we're 4.5, well, that's good too.
But I'm sure if I went to various department heads and said, hey, we got 10 grand available, can you think of a useful way to benefit the library? I bet many of them would say, sure, I can do some good with that. So that's, again, general perspective I'm articulating.
Yes, you may.
I move the JMRL accept the Friends Family of Funds of the Charlottesville Area Community Foundation's granted allocation of up to $112,673 and authorize the expenditure of that.
Oh, second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
And Louisa County Community Fund grant.
Okay, so there is a second grant that JMRL has applied for and received in this case from the Louisa County Community Fund. Just a little background here. Ophelia Payne and I have been working, or we've been talking to the Louisa County Public Schools for a while now about joining in on their summer internship program where the school identifies kids, helps prepare them for a summer of work, and then puts them out into the community for a paying internship in the summer. So the past 2 years, Louisa has had the benefit of having the JMRL NAACP scholar present to do some extra work, and it turns out they really love having an intern to help out there in the summertime. So this year we wrote a grant to the Louisa County Community Fund requesting $3,000 to pay for an internship specifically for the Louisa County Library for next summer, and we received that grant. So we would need the board to make a similar motion to accept that funding in order to have a intern in Louisa next summer.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make it. I move that JMRL accept the Louisa County Community Funds granted allocation of $3,000 and authorize the expenditure of that funding for the support of library services.
Aye.
Okay, good. Now, that's all of our new business. Library grant.
Flying through it,
Yeah.
Madam President. So I wanted to give you all an update on summer reading. You will get the full picture later. At some point, we will have a continuing ed probably from Megan Smead, the Children's Services Manager at JMRL. But this has been the busiest summer at JMRL that I can remember in 22 years of working here. So I don't want to step on that CE, but I will a little bit. We've seen a 130% increase in signups for summer reading over last year. It went from about 3,000 signups to over 7,000 this year. So it's been a tremendously popular program, large part, as I mentioned last month, due to reconfiguring the program, doing some different PRs and PR partners, and then just a general mood in our community that people want to get out and go do summer reading. The number of adult signups has been through the roof too, which is interesting. So still a few weeks left, I believe. Maybe only 2 weeks left. If you haven't already signed up, it's not too late to sign up and get your tote bag and complete the summer reading challenge. I'm also happy to announce that JMRL is going to turn on, or has already soft launched, a turn on of holds pickup at the Nelly's Ford kiosk. So if you all remember last spring, the 24-hour kiosk opened in the town of Nelly's Ford, conveniently located between the ABC store and the grocery store. We've had service there for over a year, since March of 24, and it's held kind of a lucky day collection. So it's kind of like the bestseller collection. You couldn't put a hold on it. Whatever was there, you could see what was there online, but when you got there, it was kind of luck of the draw for the 200 plus items that were in there. Basically, high demand library books and DVDs are in there now. It's been first come, first serve. Well, as of 2 weeks ago, patrons can now place holds online at jmrl.org and select Nelly's Ford kiosk. And their titles will be delivered from anywhere in the regional library system for pickup at the kiosk. It might take up to a week for available titles to arrive, a little bit longer than it takes for the normal cycle to get things like the branch library, because it's reliant on the trips that the staff are taking twice a week to fill in and empty out the room. There's not somebody there every day. And there are also some library materials that don't fit in the kiosk just for pure size. It's got a really innovative design. It's a carousel with these little kind of triangular slots. And if you get a big children's book, it might not fit in there. So if that were to be the case, then the Nelson Memorial Library staff will give you a call and arrange for other ways to pick it up, including the bookmobile, which now goes down through Nelly's Ford. Okay. Brandy mentioned auto renewal, so just an update on that. So far, so good. This got turned on July 1, so any materials, any materials that are eligible for auto renewal that were checked out after July 1 have been auto renewed. So about 10,000 items have auto renewed since last week. We have only gotten positive feedback so far and some positive chatter online, some comments where this is a great step forward. My old system used to do this. Thank you for the improvement. Much more convenient. I was pleasantly surprised to see when I logged into my account yesterday to renew my books that it was already renewed. So it's still early, but so far no negative feedback has made its way up to me. My concern all along from library staff was confusion in messaging, so that somebody would think something had been renewed, but of course it won't renew if there's a hold on it. We do have certain unrenewable items like those bestsellers that we mentioned. But so far, we haven't seen anybody have a problem with that, and it's been pretty successful and well received. I'll keep you up to date on that.
They're being told that it won't renew, if they were told that it won't renew if it has a hold on it, right?
Correct.
So they should be,
Yeah.
should be aware.
A couple days before your items are due, you get a courtesy notice, an email notice that says, here's the status, here's what renewed, and then it will tell you the ones that didn't renew and that are due. And if you don't turn those in the day before, you'll get an email saying these are really due tomorrow. We weren't kidding. Okay, I'd also like to take a minute to thank the Friends of the Library who committed to supporting JMRL programming for fiscal year 26 with a record $189,000 in support. So this is an increase of almost 8% from the previous year. So as a reminder, the Friends pay for all library programming and sort of special things to support programming and staff throughout the year. And talked about the success of their recent book sales. We talked about the success of our summer reading program, and it's all because of the Friends support there. So very thank you to the Friends. If you see any friends or know any friends, tell them thank you. And then finally, I'll end on some sad news that I've already shared with some of you, but JMRL's collection and technology manager, Kayla Payne, is moving on from JMRL. The silver lining is that she's taken a job as the IT operations manager at the city of Charlottesville. So we're still going to be working closely with Kayla to ensure the stability of the library's network infrastructure, but we're going to sort of consider. That is all I have to report.
Thank you. Other matters? Yeah.
I have another matter.
Okay.
I get this magazine, Charlottesville Lifestyle, and I was flipping through it, and there was this really great article about JMRL
Great.
in this program, which I didn't know anything about bringing dogs into the library and having kids read to the dog.
Pause to read.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about that. But anyways, if you guys, I don't know how this is distributed.
I've seen copies around.
It just comes. But it's a really great article. And I was really proud of. Be proud of you.
Thank you for sharing.
That's great. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Pause for.
Pause to read.
Pause to read.
I have another matter. I thought it probably didn't need an announcement, but Randy pointed out to me on Friday, it probably does. I am expecting and also expecting to not be here for our meeting on the 25th because I am due on the 17th. So, I probably won't be in person for a couple of our future meetings here, and may have a +1 at a meeting in the fall.
Congratulations.
Already offered.
Yeah.
Anything else? Future items. Yeah, we'll have the fines and fees review discussions that.
Should be a policy committee report.
Policy committee.
We'll think of something.
Okay. Well, then I guess.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to
Trying to
adjourn.
make that motion.
I get to bang your gavel.
Oh, yep. Oh, this thing doesn't.
It's learning.
Okay. Do we need a second on that?
Motion was made. You don't need a second, but you do need a vote.
Okay, yeah, I have a vote. Everybody in favor of adjourning? Those are not, aye. Okay, I'm in favor of, so, well,
Yeah.
Okay, good job.
Thank you, Alita. You did a great job on that first.
My children work there.
You should be getting this.